Thank you, Kelly. At this time, Lloyd Pierson is going to come and discuss shepherding of abusers.
Shepherding the abuser in domestic violence. Everyone is against domestic abuse in general. You will find no supporters here in this assembly at all. However, when it comes to specific cases and specific men, this is where the difficulty starts. Because those men are in other churches. They are in other denominations with different initials. Our pastor, elder, outstanding church member is not abusive. Truth be told, I don't want to be uncharitable, but his wife is a really difficult person. You know, there might even be some psychological issues. And so it begins. You are going to pursue an abuser. Be prepared for your relationships with him, his friends, his family, to be either broken or severely strained. Shepherding an abuser is costly. It is certainly the right thing to do, but siding with the weak against the strong will bring you grief. Gospel grief, but grief all the same. Be prepared for campaigns to discredit you and your church's efforts. You will be called unbiblical, liberal, woke, feminist, and so forth. Once you decide to help, and once the woman is safe, you can begin to address him. There is a continuum of abusive behavior. The further down the scale, the harder and the more entrenched it becomes. By way of analogy, in the medical world, not very many make it with third and fourth stage cancer diagnosis. Dealing with abusive men is bleak. Recidivism is high. In some ways, it is similar to working with addicts. But few of these men see themselves as abusers. Most of them think of themselves as the victim. In an abuse program, it takes weeks before some of these connections are made. Everything you use to help challenge and correct the abuser, he will in turn use against his spouse. The very words and phrases and scriptures that are meant for him, he will turn against her. They are adept at using jargon, internet studies, and experts to support their cause. If you do not understand what patterns of abuse look like, you're not going to get very far. If you are ignorant of this, it's really difficult to get past he said, she said. We are just wired to think it takes two to tango. Abuse is never justified by what she may or may not have done. Abuse is not a marriage problem. Abuse is an abuse problem, often wrapped in marital conflict. We are all trained to do couples counseling. Couples counseling is unsafe for her, it is unwise, and it is unproductive in cases of abuse. You will need to involve the spouse to ask her very specific questions to see what has happened and what may still be happening. Someone may say something to you like, you know, I did get a little angry. And that sounds like common marital stuff. Learning, though, that what he means, he screamed at her inches away from her face for 2 or 3 hours, does not. Cathartic outbursts of tears and sorrow mean very little, though they will flow freely. Real change is seen in actions, and these changes come very, very slowly. Typically, when you're working in these circumstances, overt kinds of abuse will actually decrease, but there will be a corresponding increase in verbal and emotional abuse because these are much harder to detect. Your sessions need to be educated in order to handle these circumstances because church discipline is needed to keep him accountable and engaged in the process of repentance and change. Most communities have intervention programs. There are also some Christian online options. Group programs are better than one-on-one. Personal counseling by someone who's familiar with abuse for him concurrently with a program is helpful. But do know that abusers will find fault with whatever program they are in and misrepresent it. In the counseling process, there may be underlying issues that contribute to these problems. But people make choices to be abusive. They are not compelled. Hold him responsible. Give him no quarter for excuses. He must take responsibility for his sinful actions. Create a detailed plan for what is expected of him, clearly pointing out when he minimizes what he has done, when he shifts blames to her or to something else, or deny it altogether. He will often confess what he has done, justify it, and deny it all in the same breath. Pray a great deal. Hold forth the good news of Jesus as both the means and the model of sacrificial love. And know that one of the greatest obstacles to helping him may very well be you. You will need to think differently. You will need a better understanding. Brothers, I am like you, a regular busy pastor. I made mistakes trying to help people. I still do. But our church started a process of wanting to have understanding, wanting to know how to deal with these issues of abuse. And it is still ongoing. And I encourage you, I implore you to do the very same thing. Because if you don't, every one of you is going to stand against abuse for those men in those other churches and those other denominations because they're not here in our midst. May that not be so. Thank you.